Hi, I'm Roselle Mayor David Pileski, and welcome to our Fireside Chats. We're going to be bringing in mayors from across the county and other legislators to understand what home rule means to them and their communities as Roselle starts to make their decision for March 19th.
Well, I'm grateful to have the Wheaton Mayor, Mayor Suess, here today to discuss kind of what home rule has meant for Wheaton and just his own personal experience with it. So, Mayor Suess, thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you, and it's a pleasure to be in Roselle. Happy to talk to you about the home rule.
So, for Wheaton, when did you guys get home rule?
Home rule in Wheaton goes back to 1971. Our population at that time was about 31,000. So we've been home rule since 1971.
And when we talk about home rule for you guys in Wheaton's context, like what does that meant really from a position of what you've been doing differently than other communities that might not have that authority?
The key point with home rule is the discretion to make decisions locally. The impact on Wheaton, from my perspective, hasn't been dramatic other than having the flexibility to do certain things. I think the biggest impact has been with respect to our home rule sales tax. Home rule sales tax generates probably in the neighborhood of about $6 million a year.
Okay.
And that tax was implemented a number of years ago at 0.5%, and later on was raised to 1%. And it has not been increased in the last 10 years. So that's one example. Another example, which I think is a little bit more significant, 2 years ago we issued pension obligation bonds to fully fund our pension plan. That was a $45 million bond issue, and home rule gave us the ability, the discretion to do that. And I think, yes, $45 million is a lot of money, but that fully funded the pension plans, and that transaction saved the city of Wheaton $1 million a year in expense. So that freed up $1 million a year in operations for the next 18 years. So I think that's an example of the discretion of home rule and how it can be utilized for the benefit of the community.
Absolutely. Those are fantastic examples, and pension debt is a huge issue for all of our communities. When you talked about sales tax, what do you guys in Wheaton use that revenue for? And does that help with property taxes being kind of kept at a lower rate than they would have otherwise been?
Yes, the sales tax is, it's an alternative, obviously, to property tax. As a residential community in Wheaton, our property taxes tend to be higher than other communities. So the discretion to utilize sales tax is very helpful. The thing with sales tax is not all, people come into the community, they pay the sales tax. So it's not as if it's borne completely by the community. It's borne by everybody who does business or comes to the community. We're always very interested in what are our alternatives to raising property taxes, because not everybody pays property tax. In Wheaton, roughly 20% of our property is off the tax roll. So to have the ability to use sales tax to kind of broaden the base, that's something that's helpful to us.
Absolutely. Something you hit on earlier that I want to explore a little bit more is you talked about local control. What does local control mean to you? In Illinois, I think we're kind of in a unique situation too with how we kind of have home rule communities and non-home rule communities and how that plays out. So can you expand upon that a little bit more?
Yes, Wheaton, as I said before, we're fortunate. We've been home rule since 71. I never, objectively really saw the purpose for this distinction between home rule and non-home rule. My thought has always been everyone should be home rule. I mean, why should the rules in one community be different than in another community? Right. And you have to have confidence that the people making the decisions are going to make the best decisions for their community. I think it would be very helpful to the state of Illinois, to everyone, hey, everybody's home rule. Let's just get rid of that distinction. I think it's archaic, and quite frankly, I think it's really hard to defend as to why the rules are different in one place relative to another.
Absolutely. I think the state has enough in Springfield to worry about than taking care of small minutia that we deal with on a daily basis. And I think, to your point, we're all elected, right? Everyone has an opportunity to go to the ballot box and say, you know what, if I really don't trust these people, then you shouldn't be voting for them in the first part. But also, I think that as it is today, home rule is a privilege. It's not necessarily a right in all sense, and voters have the opportunity to remove that authority should they feel motivated by referendum to do that. So it's not something that's a permanent thing. Now, granted, in the state of Illinois, there's very few, I think we can count on a single hand the number of cases where communities have gone to the ballot box to remove that authority. And I think that speaks volumes to its importance and that everyone's using it responsibly, right?
I agree. And, even in situations where home rule might have been a little bit contentious and they moved ahead with it, I think it's like long since forgotten. I mean, it's working fine. It's giving the community the discretion to do the things they need to do. And it's not an issue to anyone. Okay, so you implemented a home rule sales tax. Well, that's beneficial. I mean, it's broader based. It's less reliance, as I said before, on property tax. It enables the community to do things they otherwise wouldn't do. We all have our challenges with respect to infrastructure, with respect to pension expense, with respect to just overall inflation. Let's be smart about it.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. Anything you want to add that we haven't had a chance to say, or anything you would like to add before we close out?
No, happy to be here. It's good to see you, and I think it's a good idea with respect to home rule, and it's beneficial to the community. It's not adverse. It gives the community the flexibility to do the things they need to do.
Great. Well, thank you, Mayor Suess, for joining us.
Very good. Good to see you.
Absolutely.
Come visit Wheaton.
Absolutely. We'll come visit you next. So
All right.
thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Great to see you.